we could sell everything and get 2 or 3 times higher return on equity, which basically means I could make 2 or 3 times more on my money if I pull it out of my multifamily deals and put it into outdoor wellness resorts. So we have 5 resorts right now. 2 of them have been ground up construction. 3 of them have been buying existing ones.
Hello there. Welcome back to the next episode of the Goal Crazy podcast. I'm your host, Jason Vandeveer, and today I have with me Zander Kempf. And Zander is really interesting and inspiring. Zander is a real estate investor who invests in hot spring resorts and glamping resorts, which I'm super excited to hear what those are to begin with. And he's also the founder of Clear Summit Investments. Really, they own these unique resorts around the country where they have Airstream trailers and cabins and really neat camping resorts. So Zander, I'm excited to have you on here.
Thanks so much for having me. Likewise.
Yeah. All right. So give me a little bit of the background on what is a glamping resort.
Yeah. So glamping is, and there's a couple different terms to describe it. You may say landscape hotel, or we like to say outdoor wellness resorts. But it's basically not your flagged, Hilton, Hyatt, Best Western, where you have a bunch of white boxes in a big building. We use the landscape, we use the nature as the place to stay. So we're usually much larger pieces of property out farther away from a city, and we're out in nature. So we might have cabins or yurts or Airstream trailers, and they're going to be tucked in the forest or along a stream. We do a big focus on hot springs. So we'll build a resort around a natural hot spring. We'll have the water come up into pools where people can soak. We do allow people to come for day passes often. So you can come enjoy the hot spring on a day pass, but then you can also stay for the night and just enjoy that presence. There's usually fire pits. We're far from, again, city lights. So you can stay out under the stars, and have a really big unplug and reset away from the busy, crazy technology filled society, and just have a lot more presence, quiet, and connection with, the people that you're staying with.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure a big appeal for people to go out west is they want to experience the outdoors, and experiencing it from a very tall hotel building in downtown isn't quite the outdoor experience they might be craving. We would go out of town as a kid in the RV. We'd go for a couple weeks out west there, and being an RV is a great way to do it, but lots of people don't have an RV. So your resorts give them that experience to have privacy. You're outside and you can enjoy the outdoors there, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we go near national parks or other major destinations. We focus around the Rocky Mountains. So, in those states where people are already road tripping or visiting national parks. And yeah, it's a really beautiful way to just get out and enjoy nature.
Yeah. Okay, so give me a little bit of your backstory. How did you arrive at investing in glamping resorts? Where'd this start?
Sure. So 9 years ago, I started in real estate. I was an officer in the Army. I was a paratrooper.
Thank you for your service.
And thank you. Um, and at first, I was just looking for alternative investments outside of the stock market. So I learned option trading and was doing crypto mining back in 2017 before it all blew up. Built a couple crypto miners. My garage was like a sauna because of the computers I had in there. And so I was always entrepreneurial, just trying different things. And I started, a buddy from college pitched me on this crazy idea of real estate investing. And so I started to learn a little bit about it, self-educated, went and read every book I could find, listened to a ton of podcasts and did online courses, and then bought my first single family house. It was a $45,000 house in Oklahoma City. I was paying $350 a month in rent. And I saw the power that real estate had to leverage, to use creativity, to create, income and wealth on multiple levels of the tax benefits, the appreciation, the loan pay down, the amortization, and the cash flow from it. And then I went all in on that. So I learned everything I possibly could about real estate and started just doing as many deals as I could, and every deal larger than the last. So I bought, the first one was a turnkey, so it was already renovated with a tenant in place. I went and bought a minor rehab and then a major rehab. Then I bought a really ugly house off of Facebook Marketplace that I moved into myself and flipped it while I was living in it with my roommates. Um, Started flipping houses, and then got to the point where it's like, okay, I'm looking for cash flow because that's how I create a life of freedom, of passive income, and flipping doesn't really do that. So I started buying distressed small multifamily buildings and do the same thing where I can go in and renovate, put tenants in, and then cash out refinance, pull my money out, own the building, and then roll my money into the next deal. And I did that over and over, doing larger and larger apartment deals, and then started doing more development. So converting buildings and moving into that realm. And that led us up into about mid COVID. We had 23 apartment buildings. We're full focused on that, but the numbers just kind of stopped making sense. Interest rates were really low. Cap rates got super low. There was this big frenzy in the market, and then Warren Buffett's kind of famous quote of "Be greedy when others are fearful, and fearful when others are greedy" was ringing in my head of like there's this mania here, and the numbers just don't make sense in the multifamily space. So I sold my entire portfolio, all 23 apartment buildings, and started looking for different real estate asset classes to go into. At some point in there, after I'd gotten out of the military, I went to work for a real estate developer out in Hawaii. We were doing industrial subdivisions and high rises and retail centers and all sorts of different projects. So I got experience in a lot of different niches. And so we did this big look across. Okay, where is there opportunity? Where is there not competition? Where can I get some kind of like unfair advantage and an edge? And pretty much everywhere in real estate, we saw a lot of institutional competition. Everyone is in real estate. It's a really competitive thing. Um, and particularly looking at like mobile home parks and self storage because those seem to be like kind of fringe. But then adjacent to that, we saw RV parks and glamping resorts that hadn't really had this big wave of institutional interest yet. They were still 88% owned by small mom and pops. They still had really high cap rates, which means basically high cash flow based on the value. And that's where we started to see opportunity. So started to focus in there. We got our first property up near the Grand Canyon where we built a 12-unit Airstream glamping resort. It's called the Outpost now. It's been open for we
I'm gonna
yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
can I pause you there? Did you say you built it? So you didn't buy an already cash flowing one, you built one?
Yeah, because we're a development firm. So,
Yeah, yeah.
we used to develop multifamily. I developed some industrial. I worked for a developer doing, high rise development. So that world is something that myself and my whole team is really specialized in. That's also where we have a bit of an edge. So yeah, we bought a piece of land 20 minutes from the main entrance to the Grand Canyon on the South Rim. Went through the whole permitting process, designed the resort, and then built it ground up.
Wow. Okay, I wanna backtrack a little bit to your apartment buying. So you started with this single family house, started growing really quickly. This was 9 years ago, so you've done a lot over those 9 years. How soon did you bring in other investors? Or was that something that only started because I know it looks like part of Clear Summit Investments. Were you doing that with your multifamily and you could learn that piece of the game too, or when did that start?
Yeah, so I've always been big on like creative finance, creative deal structuring, and that's part of the leveraging piece that I saw the power of real estate. Of when you buy a property, you're leveraging the bank's money because they'll loan it at a really low interest rate. But you also get to leverage other people's money by bringing in investors into the fund, and then they get a benefit too because they get a share of the profits without having to do any of the work. So I had an investor in from the third property I ever did. So the first one I did myself. The second one I had a partner. It was my buddy from college, who we did it together equally. And then the third one we brought in a small investor. And then almost every deal since then. I've done about 55 real estate deals. They're like bought 55 different properties, and we've had investors in almost every single one. Then most recently, last year, we raised a big fund. We brought in 104 investors, raised about $20 million, and to buy the five glamping and hot spring resorts that we have. And then this year, we're doing another fund where we'll bring in a bunch more investors to keep things going.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. All right, so you started getting investors. So you already had the skill set of how to do that. You want to switch industries. When before we started recording, you mentioned you had sold those to and then moved into this. When did all that happen? Did you like prove the concept with this glamping resort first before switching everything over? Or did the multifamily hit a point where it's like, hey, the market's high, I'm just going to sell it all right now and figure out what's next after?
It was kind of both things happened at once. I mean, and real estate's a
Yeah,
really slow process. So the decision to sell until the time where things actually get sold is certainly not an overnight thing. I had 23 properties to sell.
maybe. Yeah,
Um, and we unfortunately determined that it was more profitable to sell them individually rather than as a bundle. So that was 23 separate transactions, which the brokers had a field day with. So it took some time there. So it was definitely a
yeah,
transition out of those and into a new asset class.
hmm
So there was plenty of time in that. But what we've pretty much always had, so I've had, roughly 150 investors to date. And some of them have been with us for, 6, 7, 8 years. uh, they've pretty much always just rolled deal to deal with us. Every time we exit a property, we have a new one set up. So as we were exiting the multifamily deals, or we had done some industrial deals, as we exited those, we just said, "Hey, we've got these new, we've got this glamping resort by the Grand Canyon. If you want to roll your investment into that, you can." And then, okay, we'll roll it into the fund. Um, and so it was kind of a natural just roll of
it's really good.
transition of everything over.
Yeah. Okay. So you decide on the glamping resort, you build out your first one. Tell us how the opening of that resort went.
It went really well. I mean,
Yeah.
it took us about a year and a half to entitle, and then about a year to build it, which is what we had expected. But we opened it last May. And just for note, we develop some and we do some value add. So we have 5 resorts right now. 2 of them have been ground up construction. 3 of them have been buying existing ones. Um, but yeah, this one that we built, it's called the Outposts by the Grand Canyon. But we opened it a little over a year ago, and we're far exceeding our projections. The last couple months, we've been at 90% occupancy. I think we got about 150 5-star reviews on Google right now, so it's
Yeah.
been going really well.
Hmm. How how is it different from multifamily? Because that's you're not finding tenants in the same way, right? You're advertising in a completely different market. Like, what's that process been like?
In some ways, it's a world of different, and in some ways, it's the same.
Yeah.
So the core basis of being a real estate investor are almost exactly the same, and I learned that from when I worked for a large developer out here in Hawaii, when we were asset agnostic, whether we were doing a retail center, a office building for the state, a harbor, an industrial property. You're looking at a property, you're doing your due diligence, you're figuring out what's the highest and best use for it, and then how do we build it out to its max capacity, and then how do we operate it, and how do we finance it. um, so those core principles are the same throughout, so that piece wasn't anything different for us. The different part is the actual operations of the property. And although from the outside it may look like that's everything, it's really just one piece of it. um, but that is the area that we didn't have, obviously, when we were doing multifamily. So that was an area that we had to build out. So we looked at third party management firms. We weren't happy with any of them. We hired a couple to try them out. It didn't work out, so we let them go, and we built out an in house capacity. So we just focused on hiring really great people, and we have an absolutely amazing VP of asset management, who, his name's Connor Shaw. He came over from Sage Advisory, who's the biggest advisory firm in the outdoor hospitality space. So he came over, and then we got a really great support team in the Philippines who had experience working with other short term rental property management companies. So we just brought in the expertise and hired it. People really bought into the vision and the brand that we've created, and now they're off to the races on that.
Yeah. That's really impressive because I think what I'm hearing there is you didn't let yourself be the person who's operating these, right? That would have been a huge bottleneck for you. And was that kind of the mindset you always started your rentals with? Or when did you realize you had to get management fully off your plate?
Yeah, I think that's a piece. It's one of the core like principles of being a business owner and entrepreneur is, there's a really awesome book called Who Not How. And, it's the idea of, as the entrepreneur, as the CEO, you're not the one who needs to do anything, but it's your job to figure out who's the best person to go do that thing. So it's definitely been a progression of, my first couple houses, obviously I was managing myself. I flipped a couple houses like personally, like doing all of the work myself. Um, and have just continuously progressed up from there of like, okay, I can outsource bookkeeping, I can outsource maintenance, I can outsource management and start outsource or hire within whatever that might be. And that's something I'm continuously doing every day of looking at what is on my plate, what is I kind of like to look at like what's the dollar value of my time or of each task, and the lowest dollar value tasks I can get a lower dollar value person to run those tasks for me. That leaves me to be in the headspace that I'm best at, which is the visionary. What things can I be doing to grow the company, to build partnerships, bring in large investors, set up new deals, and push more of the operational work on the people that are best suited to do those things.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. Okay, because when I was looking at your website, I saw some of them had the Airstream trailers on it. Some of them had little cabins. I think I saw one that had tiny homes.
Mhm.
How'd you choose what you were going to put there as the place somebody could stay in?
Yeah, so that's kind of where the fun like design part comes into play, of really creating a unique experience. And that is a part where our team is really good and experienced with that. The nice thing is it's both for myself. I know I mentioned the reason I switched over to outdoor hospitality was because there was not a lot of competition and the numbers were good. But another big piece of it was like the passion play of it's an area that I grew up in rural New Hampshire. I've spend all my time outdoors, backpacking, surfing, kiting, hiking, all that stuff, and most of my team does as well. So we're all like deeply connected to nature and adventure and freedom. So we get to build that into the properties that we create, which is it's something we're so grateful for of having the opportunity to do that.
All right, so this is where a lot of people get stuck. It's not that they don't want to launch a business, it's that they haven't found the right business idea or they don't know how to get their current idea off the ground. And that's why I created a free training that'll walk you step by step through this process to discover your perfect business idea, validate that it's a winner, and get it launched this year. You can access that training at goalcrazy.com/free training. All right, let's get back into the episode.
So, yeah, when we look at a property, it's okay. Well, what would we actually enjoy going here? What kind of creates that like cool Instagrammable vibe that is going to be unique from the white box hotel that might be down the street or in the city, but what's going to let people have a unique experience that they couldn't get anywhere else and be able to really enjoy nature or do something cool that they'll post a picture of. Um, the aesthetic is something that's really important because that helps like the virality, the marketing, helps us do well on social media, help us, stand out when you're looking at Airbnb or something. But yeah, it's kind of what's kind of cool. It's kind of weird. What wouldn't you get in a normal life? Because people are usually on vacation that are coming, so they want like a cool experience.
Yeah. That's neat. So it's almost part of your marketing there is making it a very unique experience because then they post about it when they're scrolling through Airbnb. Yours immediately stands out. It's not you're clearly not renting somebody's house. This is a unique atmosphere where they're at.
Exactly. Yeah, and then I mean, it's the more we can push on social media too, the more direct bookings we typically get. And when we book on through third party websites like Airbnb or Expedia, there's pretty high fees that we end up paying there. So getting the direct booking is a big push. The best property we have right now is Desert Reef Hot Spring in Colorado, and that's got about 20,000 Instagram followers. And because of that, we get a really high amount of direct bookings through there. So our margins on that property are a lot better than some of the other ones.
Hmm. Yeah. You mentioned earlier, so it sounds like about half the deals you've built from the ground up and the other half you acquired and it was a value add play. Where are you finding most of the value? Like where is mostly the opportunity at when you're analyzing a deal and you find, okay, there's a lot of meat on the bone here where I can increase the value? Is that prices. They don't realize how cool of a setup they have, and you should be marketing it more. You can just add a lot more units. What's that normal value add look like?
Yeah. I mean, funny enough, like what I was mentioning earlier on some of the core real estate investing principles being similar, it's a lot of the same stuff that applies when I was looking at a duplex for value add. Is it like how are the aesthetics? How has it been maintained? How is it marketed and how is it managed? And who's actually staying there? So, we're buying a lot of these resorts from mom and pop owners who might have owned them for 20, 30, 40 years. Some of them don't have websites. Some of them don't market the properties. They don't have nice amenities. They haven't really maintained the property. So we look for something that's in a good area, near a national park, within a couple hour drive of a major metro, large enough land where we can expand it. That's another big value add is oftentimes these are big pieces of land and we can expand the use. And that's where we get to tap into our development capability um, of expanding the property. We have in-house constructions. We can do a lot of that work, at a pretty low cost. But yeah, so we come in with a professional marketing team, a professional property management team, and we just run things very well versus like, what might have previously been done of just inefficient or not great marketing.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're looking for it's an older person who owns it. They haven't been giving it the newest technology or attention, and there's a lot of opportunity if somebody's willing to do it. Have you noticed now that you have multiple of these, does it start to snowball on itself? Like kind of the 1 + 1 = 3 model, where because you already have these other ones and you have a customer base, when you open a new resort, you can hit your email list and have it filled right away versus somebody else who's trying to get into the space, they have to push really hard to get the momentum started. Have you found that to be the case?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we get to copy and paste, and that's a benefit to that is like by doing the same thing over and over, and we've continuously kind of niched ourselves down into having like a really narrow focus, so that way it can be very replicatable. As soon as we get a new property, all right, we know exactly what we're doing for social media, what we're doing for email marketing, what we're doing for website, what we're doing for amenities, booking software, all that stuff is just a copy and paste system that we've already figured out with the first couple and now get to copy and paste that over. Same management team, so we get more and more efficient as we go. So yeah, there's a huge, huge amount there. And then yeah, sharing customer data in between resorts, cross marketing to everybody. Everything we're doing is within the Rocky Mountains region, so we can cross market, and people will often stay at multiple of our properties. And then that also helps us on the future resale value too. That's part of our thesis is we're buying everything with a long term hold potential. So we may operate these properties forever, but by rolling up a portfolio of these that are similar properties in a similar area and putting the same management across the board, that does tee up our portfolio really well for a large institutional exit at some point. So we kind of have a two-prong exit potential.
Yeah, that's interesting. The other thing I noticed when I was looking through these, hot springs seem to be a key point of your properties. What's the benefit of having the hot springs? Is it just an attraction? Maybe even define what exactly is a hot spring. What does it look like for somebody to use it? How does that add value to the property?
Yeah. No, a hot spring is one of the most valuable things that property can have that I've ever seen. So in where we're at, Colorado, Arizona, Utah, that's we're in the middle of the desert, so it's not like there's a lot of lakes or oceans around. But you've got water coming out of the ground at some of our properties. It's 120, 130 degrees at a few hundred gallons a minute pouring out. And then so that spring we run into pools and people can come and soak in the pools. It's really mineral rich water. So there's a whole group of like hot spring enthusiasts that look at the mineral content of the different springs and will visit the different springs to get different mineral contents. There's a lot of health benefits to soaking in this like really mineral rich water. But it's also just, you're soaking in hot pools. It's just a very relaxing. Most of our hot spring resorts we have very quiet. Like Desert Reef is one. It's a clothing optional resort. We take phones at the front desk. You're asked to keep your voices down. And we're out in the middle of the desert, so you can't see any other buildings or lights on the horizon. It's very peaceful and quiet. Sometimes we'll do like sound baths or yoga, other meditations there. It's a very like relaxing place. From the business side, it's a huge revenue stream because not only do the guests get to stay and enjoy the pools, and that gives us a higher nightly rate we can charge, but also we sell day passes, and it might be 25, $35 for a day pass, but we sell 50 or 100 of those a day, and you know usually we see the majority of the revenue from these resorts actually coming from those day pass sales. That also lets us add on additional revenue streams of food and beverage and a convenience store and souvenirs and all this other stuff because we now have a high foot traffic of people coming through there.
Wow. That's pretty interesting. And if I'm following this correctly, it's like the water, it's coming through the ground, it's being put in this pool. You can mix hot water, cold water to get it the right temperature so you're not in 130-degree water. And then it's not like it needs chlorine because this water, it sits in there and then you dump it out. It's more like a giant bathtub. But it's fresh water from the ground. Am I following that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So it's called flow through pools rather than
Hmm.
recirculation. So pretty much any pool that you'd go to at like a resort or something is chlorinated and they recirculate, so they filter it. Versus the hot spring, because we have so much water coming out of the ground, we let it flow through the pools. You have crystal clear water that's continuously running through there, but there's no chlorine, there's no salt or additives or anything. It's just clean natural water.
Okay, then you also mentioned clothing optional, which in America doesn't sound too common. Was that something you bought one that had that, or was that you were gonna take a risk and try marketing this here and see what happened? Because I could
Yeah,
see
that
that being a potential risk or, I don't know, open up lawsuits or I don't know, maybe those aren't actually relevant fears to have, but talk to me about that.
Yeah, so that one, it was, it's at Desert Reef Hot Spring is the property. That was a hot spring that started back in the '80s and was, slowly developed over time. Um, and it had always been that way. When the previous owners bought it and redeveloped it, it was clothing optional. And then when we bought it, it was, they had kept it the same. That property in particular has a lot of locals that come. We're down near Colorado Springs. And there's a really strong local following to it. So, and some tourists as well. It's probably half and half. But in order to support the local community that already like knew and loved the hot spring, we didn't feel like changing anything significantly would be a benefit. So it kind of goes in line with that more kind of spiritual meditative experience. The pools there, we have 5 tiny homes that each have their own private pool at them. So
Hmm.
it is a really nice like couples retreat weekend where you can have your own space, or if you want to be clothing optional in the communal pools, you can do that. Fridays are more of like a family day, so clothing is required on Fridays, and then if we do bigger events like a concert or something, then you wear clothes for that. But um, it's in the middle of the desert. There's nobody around, and it just lets people kind of relax and enjoy a little bit more if they want to.
Yeah. Do you feel like that does that allow you to charge a premium? Do you feel like that affects the price? Like, I could see if there's a community people that are looking for that, there's probably not a lot of them. I've never researched to see maybe there's more than I expect, but I'd imagine it's fewer. So are you paying a premium to be able to get that option, or uh, does it detract from your price? Because I could also see other people like maybe I don't want other naked people walking around if depending on what I'm going on this trip for. Or is it really hard to say?
Yeah, I don't know if we necessarily put a premium on it. I think it's more just a unique feature of the resort. It's a type of place that kind of fits this sort of um, feeling and vibe. And if that's there's a group of people that really buy into that are going to go here, and we're serving that niche demographic. But we've got 25,000 people a year that go through the property, either staying nightly or come for day passes. So it's certainly a very popular thing.
Yeah, it's really good. Okay, so you've gotten 5 of these. Is the goal to just keep growing and buying more of them? Do you have a set number of how many you wanna get in that area? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, so our whole team, we came together over the last few years around this. this thesis of let's, really heavily invest in outdoor wellness and hot spring resorts, and to both our investors and ourselves of using these properties to create freedom. They're properties that get people outside, get people like enjoying nature, which is what all of us on our team love and are passionate about. And they have good, strong cash flow, and we can own them. Like we're building them all to own for the long term. So our whole team is just full speed motivated to keep pursuing that. We're all love what we're doing. Our investors are all very excited. Everybody that keeps joining our team is bought into that vision. There's also not really anybody else in the country doing this. There's very few groups that are investing in outdoor wellness, and there's nobody else doing hot spring resorts, especially at the scale that we are. So that is our full focus right now. We're going to do it better than anybody else, and having this opportunity to go, full speed, go after it. We've got the operations set up. We've got the construction set up. We've got the capital raising arm set up, and yeah, so we're full speed ahead, rolling up these properties, mostly focusing on the value add deals. So buying properties that we can come in and improve, put in our management and marketing, make the amenities nicer, and then add it to our portfolio and just keep growing that larger. So we'll aim to acquire another 5 to 10 resorts this year. We'll do the same next year, and then just keep building our portfolio that way.
Wow, it's really good. Um, okay, so your team was with you. You had apartments, and you switched to these. Earlier, you mentioned it was very much of like an all-in mindset. What was that decision like? Because if you own apartments before you owned these, if you own apartments, they're cash flowing money, they're appreciating, they're paying down debt. Where did the all-in mindset go to say I'm getting rid of something that makes me money to try and double down on something that I haven't even proven yet? Uh, which now has been proven, but how talk to me about that.
Sure. Yeah, so I'm very analytical and do pretty much everything off of the finances. So the calculation was looking at our multifamily portfolio and seeing what is our return on equity. And that's like a key metric that I like to look at. So just to define that. So if I sold the properties after I pay closing costs, after I pay off the debt, um, what do I cash out? That's my like real equity.
Mhm,
And then what's my return on that? That's if I look at cash flow and assumed appreciation, how much am I paying down in debt? So if I add up all three of those income generators or wealth generators, divide that by the equity. Now, what's that percentage return? And then it's just a simple comparison of that to what if I invest in something else, and what does that return on equity look like? So we did a big deep dive analysis on every single apartment building that we had. What's our return on equity? And then started look at other deals that are out there, and it's like, okay, well, here's the thresholds that we have to beat. And what we found was, especially at that time, because the prices for multifamily were so astronomically high, that we could sell everything and get 2 or 3 times higher return on equity, which basically means I could make 2 or 3 times more on my money if I pull it out of my multifamily deals and put it into outdoor wellness resorts. So that financial calc made it very clear. Um, on top of the competition part of just simply wanting to find something where we had an edge, where there's not a lot of competition, where we can really grow and expand and go exponential. Because in multifamily, we kind of felt like we were just linearly growing because tough to find deals. There's a lot of people around. Like, what do we have that's unique? And we never really found that. Um, versus, okay, let's go in this space where nobody else really is, and we can be very unique because nobody else is doing this.
hmm, yeah, give you credit. It was, yeah, I mean, the numbers all plan out, but until you do it, it's a pro forma, right? Like, here's my estimated numbers of what I think is gonna happen, and, yeah, you did it. Also, I'm curious about the journey of probably the evolution of the mindset you had to have around real estate investing, because I'm sure there's plenty of people who bought rental properties for the first time 9 years ago who don't have the portfolio you have now. I started around 8 years ago, and I have a very small, much smaller portfolio. So, were some of the maybe like limiting beliefs or the kind of barriers you had to break through to grow into this size organization?
Sure. I think for me, the biggest piece has been having a single vision of the future and not having like, there is no possibility in my mind that the future is not exactly how I want it to be. And by keeping that in mind, when something goes off the rails or if we start to deviate or there's an issue, it's like, well, that doesn't align with how the future is gonna be, so that then needs to be fixed rather than that being something that's, like, now gonna stop me from achieving that future state, if that makes sense. Um, one of the biggest challenges in entrepreneurship that I've found, and I see a lot of people, is kinda call it, like, the, entrepreneur's curse of you start to see opportunity everywhere because we see how to make value and how to, like, do business, and now all of a sudden there's opportunity everywhere, and we start chasing shiny objects. So I saw that in real estate. I was like, oh, I could flip houses and I could wholesale and I could do apartments and industrial and all of this stuff. But the biggest thing is being able to just put those blinders on, get focused, and really, really niche down on doing one thing and doing it exceptionally well. So that was part of the motivation for selling a lot of our old stuff was being able to really hyper focus on one niche thing. And it's still something we talk about like in our team almost daily is how do we get more focused? How do we get more niche and then just really, really good at doing this one thing and doing it better than anybody else? So
Hmm. Yeah, that's good. I can tell you from personal experience, I have this e-commerce business and I have my rental properties, and it seems fun to have both of them, but also the biggest thing slowing me down from growing my real estate is my e-commerce business. The biggest thing slowing me down from growing my e-commerce business is my real estate. It's just you're pulled. They're very different. It's there's only one of me. Yeah. So I think that's a great psychology to have. Choose, go all in on one. And I think that connects with what you're offering to your investors, because before we started recording, I was joking around how I've got 34 apartments and I haven't been looking at buying more in a couple of years. And I because some of these opportunities like what you have might now look more attractive to me, where I can go buy a property, but the tenants don't have my numbers. I don't have to solve all the problems. I can still keep my focus a little bit more dialed in on my e-commerce business if that's what I want to be growing. So maybe talk about, why is this a good opportunity for people who want to get started in real estate as a means to do it?
sure. Yeah, I mean, the biggest reason why people partner with us is because they get access to something that they couldn't do otherwise. People always ask me about, oh, should I get my own, even just like a single family Airbnb? Should I buy a duplex to rent out? And I genuinely mean it. Like, and I'm sure you see it because you own real estate yourself. Like, real estate investing is not a passive activity. Like, even if you hire a property management company, even if you think it's fully out, like, there's always issues that come up. There's always things to deal with. It's not a passive thing. The only way that real estate can be a truly passive investment is if you partner with somebody who's going to actively run it. So that's what we offer is investors can come in and partner with us. They provide the capital. We invest alongside them. And then we'll go run the show. We'll do, put in all the work and do all the effort, and then we share the profits. It also allows people to access deals that you couldn't do unless you had a really large amount of money and a large amount of experience to be able to get bank loans to finance those sort of deals. We don't really do deals. Last year we had a minimum of 4 million. This year we're bumping our minimum probably to like 7 or 10 million because we see that the larger deals are just significantly more profitable because you can have the economies of scale to cover top tier management, top tier marketing, and some of those professional services that you need the property to run profitably. Um, so, a lot of our investors are 100, 200, 500K. They don't have $4 million to go buy a big giant resort and get a big loan off of and run it. So partnering with us allows people to access these larger, commercial resorts. And by the way, they get to stay. If you invest with us, you can go stay at the resorts for free, go to the hot springs for free, buddy passes with friends and family. So there's a fun lifestyle component to it also.
Yeah, I saw that because I've had a number of different people come on here who have partnerships, sort of like syndication deals where people all pitch in money and do it. But those were unique benefits to have. It wasn't just here's the return you can expect and here's some deals. I saw 10 free nights per year at one of the resorts, free hot tub passes. I feel like there was a handful of other things on there, but that is fun. Now I can see and experience what I'm investing into and feel like I'm a part of it rather than just cut the check and wait for my tax documents to come in and tell me how I did.
Yeah, it's something you actually get to brag to your friends about of owning a hot spring resort versus owning a self-storage facility in, some place you've never heard of.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, another question I have is what do you feel like is just some business advice for somebody who's getting started in their journey? Because really what you've been able to accomplish over 9 years is really impressive. What do you feel like are some of the strategies, thought processes, things that have allowed you to do this?
Yeah. Uh, One, I'd say start with the end in mind. There's I like doing the exercise of like, what does your average Tuesday look like 5 years from now? And kind of map out what that lifestyle looks like. Every piece of it. Where do you wake up? Who do you wake up next to? What does your morning look like? Who are you talking to for work for the day? And then now that's what you're building off of. Like in working towards that lifestyle. I switched several years ago from the typical like American entrepreneur mindset of, oh, I'm growing to $1 billion and I'm just going to work forever and make all the money to, okay, what do I actually need to be happy? What's the lifestyle that I want? And now let me make my business around my lifestyle and make it create and support the lifestyle that I want. So I think that's a really important piece. Um, and then the other one is the focus. And again, it's so easy to, I hear some people of, oh, I've got a, cleaning company and an e-commerce and a coaching business and a this and a this. And it's doing one thing and putting 100% of your effort into it is the easiest way to guarantee success. If you have to pivot, that's fine, but just pivot to a single thing. But otherwise, put everything heart and soul into doing that one thing, and just go figure it out. Uh, yeah,
Yeah, I think those are a great piece of advice. Awesome. Well, if people they're curious about this, they want to learn more about you, about your business, where should they go?
absolutely. Yeah, you can follow me on LinkedIn, Zander Kempf, or go to our website, clearsummitinvestments.com.
Yeah, wonderful. All right, I'll put those both down in the show notes below. But Xander, thank you so much for coming on here today. Hey, thank you so much for listening to this episode and making this show possible. If you're serious about launching your own dream-driven business idea, it's time to take the next step. I created a free training that'll walk you step by step through the process to discover your perfect business idea, validate that it's a winner, and launch it this year. You can access that free training at goalcrazy.com/free training. And if you want more content like this, be sure to subscribe below. I'll see you in the next episode.